Okay, I'll call the council meeting to order. No one is excused, and we have the adoption of the minutes from July 22nd. Clarence moves their approval or acceptance. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Do we have any post-agenda items today? Ooh. All right, no post-agenda items, so we need a motion to adopt the agenda. Brian moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, which takes us to question period, notice of motion. And once again, I will mention that if there is anyone online who has a question, there is no one physically in our building here or in our chambers, so you could get our attention, and we will go back to that item if need be. So we will move on to Todd. You are here right now, so do you want this? Yeah. Let's go right to our ag business, which is a good item to get on with, I think. Item 9 on our agenda. Welcome, Todd.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It's going to be really hard for people in the internet to ask questions because the moderator is sitting here right now. So I'll check for questions when I get back up there.
Okay. Anyone who has questions, I hope you heard that. Todd is not ignoring you because he's looking after the live stream today. He will get to your questions if you should have any when he returns to his other job.
All right, so a quick update. Does that sound like fun?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, we did a lot of great surveys already. The Club Route survey, we surveyed, as far as we know, every irrigated canola parcel in the county. We found a lot of abnormalities, but we did not find any Club Route, so that's exciting news. We did our grasshopper survey and the bacterial ring rot in potatoes, so those are all done. So that's exciting. We can get on to the other things. And being that some of our potato producers are harvesting now, their storages need to be disinfected. So we've actually been doing a bit of that this week already, which is new for us. That's usually a beginning of September job. And but now we're doing it beginning of August. So happy to do so. We did, I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but we did put a fire watch in place for our roadside mowing program. So we have all 3 tractors working in the same area, which is a coordination nightmare. And then we have 2 trucks following them with fresh water and pumps and stuff to put out anything that we might cause or see. So far, no fires started, so that's good news. I was down at Emerson yesterday. We had some snakes that have poked their heads out, and we understand they're rattlesnakes, so we were looking around, and we actually got a little training from Alberta Parks. One of the wonderful ladies was nice enough to come and teach us some stuff. We didn't find any snakes, but she did mention that there's a good chance that we've always had rattlesnakes in the area. And she used some big words like hibernaculum and I don't know, there was a lot of other things that I had no idea. And I explained to her I was unaware that I needed to know or wanted to know so much about snakes. And if we found one, I was also pretty sure I was going to puke everywhere. So I hope we don't find any. But anyways, what I understand a little bit about rattlesnakes, they've always been there and they don't really like people. They're not aggressive to people unless you're aggressive to them. And they often hang out around the edges of our tree line, which the good news, I guess, we weed whip the edge of our tree line and we mow right up there. So people would see them if they're there. Make lots of vibrations, make lots of sounds, and it makes vibrations, and then rattlesnakes will hear you and they bugger off. So anyways, just, good information. We spent about an hour with Jennifer, and she was absolutely fantastic. And now we have to buy a snake grabber, which I was also unaware that was a thing. So, I don't know. I just thought that was a fun topic. But it does continue to be popular. Weekends pretty much right full every weekend. Yesterday we had, when I was down there, probably 15 or so campers in there. So exciting times to be a campground operator. We hosted a Rural Beautification Tour on July 27th. It was fantastic. We had 37 registered, and I think 35 on the bus. We had an absolutely gorgeous day, and it was kind of a relatively quick day as it comes to that tour. We started at 9, we were done at 2:30. We seen all our places. We went to Bow City. I was surprised, and I'm always surprised, I guess, because we have such a wonderful county, and I work here, but we get to see all sorts of things right from, Hayes to Finnegan, and it always surprises me where other people haven't been. So many people on our bus tour, we stopped for lunch at the Bow City Hall, and they didn't know that Bow City had a hall or a campground. And I was like, that's really odd. Like, we're only 20 minutes from Brooks. But anyways, it's always good to show people around, and I love being a tour guide. We did a little fun inspecting this year. I'm not sure if you guys remember, we put in for a grant, a CAP grant last year, and we were awarded it to do some extra weed inspecting on the EID's infrastructure. So a bunch of their canal work, as well as we want to do 4 reservoirs each year. So we own a canoe for these exact types of scenarios. And we had a couple weed inspectors go out on a canoe and inspect 4 reservoirs, which sounds like a really fun day when it's 38 degrees, but I'm not sure if they actually dipped in or not. And just what we expected, we actually found a few patches of weeds that we don't want. So they were able to flag those and take care of them, which is fantastic. And last on the update, our soil advisory. I love talking about this, and I love our advisory group. They've just been phenomenal to work with, a wealth of information. We are nearing a really good first draft. I guess maybe it should be called a second draft. We built one, and then now we're just beating the crap out of it and hashing and adding and all that, and just been a wonderful experience. We are meeting in person now, which is fantastic. They're all ag producers, obviously, and they've offered up their farms as the hosting spots. So last meeting was our first meeting in person. We went down and went to South Slope, and then Gord actually took a few of those guys around their operation to show them a little bit. And then the next time we are going to be going to Drought in Rolling Hills, and we're hoping to see a little bit of their carrot operation at that time. So it's kind of neat. Anyways, yeah. So we did send an update letter. Many of you guys are landowners, so you probably got that wonderful update in the mail. It should have went out to everybody that owns more than 20 acres, and we've received a few phone calls back. So it's kind of nice to keep it in the forefront and have everybody thinking about it, and hopefully we don't experience much soil erosion this winter.
Thanks, Todd. Hopefully we have some snow too. Yeah. Club root abnormalities, you said?
Yeah, sorry, just lots of anomalies in the field. Yeah, so I think stressful weather causes stressful things in the field. So you really notice a lot. So when we have dry areas, you'll have hilltops that look kind of funky, or if somebody had to flood irrigate twice, you've really got some stressed areas at the ends of the fields, or where the field might not flood properly, or those kinds of things. So we had one of our guys, Donovan, go back and go into a few fields just to check those things out, just because that's our goal, is to just find anomalies in the field and then determine that they're not club root.
Lots of canola seeded this year too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The grasshoppers are like, you survey now, so was there anything noticeable?
No, I don't. I mean, they're higher than what we've seen in the last few years, but nothing has been astronomical so far. So what we do is we're supposed to survey 2 sites in every township. And we don't survey in the pure rangeland townships. We just do the kind of farmed areas. But yeah, we're seeing in the last 5 years, maybe even 10 years, we're kind of in that 0 to 1 per square meter, and we're only still in that kind of 2 to 3 per square meter. So it hasn't been huge, but it's been more than we've seen in the last few years anyway. Grasshoppers love dry springs. Their eggs are very successful in hatching and kind of taking over. So hopefully we can get some moisture next spring, because there'll be a lot of grasshopper eggs laid this fall for next year.
Curious if anyone's seeing more of them in their areas. Tracy?
Yeah, I was just out picking up some hay bales, and there was a lot. And it's on a on a pivot field, and there was lots. So, and that was my question, is because we're seeing some now, then what is it going to be like next year? Because wouldn't the population increase?
Yeah, when you have dry spring after dry spring after dry spring, that's when you really start to notice them creeping up. And I don't think grasshoppers they're around all the time. Just the higher numbers are where it's worse. And they tend to, on the really bad years, we'll notice them creeping in on those irrigated fields from the field edges. So they start where it's nice and green in the corners, and then they move their way in. And there's been years, and it's even been since I've been here, so in the last 17 years, that guys have had to spray for grasshoppers on their outside passes because they're moving in. So.
Wayne?
Yeah, I've actually, I made a thought yesterday that I hadn't seen as many grasshoppers before like I'm seeing this year. But my question is about clubroot. My neighbor was talking the other day, and he says you can spread clubroot in your combine from picking up. I thought it was just tillage equipment that could spread. Am I mistaken there?
Yeah, you can spread clubroot anytime you're moving soil around. So, yeah, I don't think there's maybe less risk. Wayne, it's you're still going to have some dirt on your tires, maybe, or you might if your header's low and you're picking up that spot, there might be some dust that goes into your combine. But certainly the incidence should be, or the risk should be less than tillage equipment that comes out of the field and you still got dirt on the shovels or all over your frame or that kind of stuff, for sure.
Yeah, Todd, I'm really excited that actually active producers are involved on the Soil Erosion Committee, and I'm so thrilled that you think it's going so well. Very good to hear. One other quick question. I believe you mentioned Jennifer that filled you in on the snakes. So what if a child would run around in the bush and, grabs a ball or what have you, and gets bitten or stung or whatever you call it, probably bitten, and how long does one have to get to the hospital?
I don't know that exact answer. I did learn some things about small snakes young snakes versus old snakes, and something to do with how much venom they'll release. I guess rattlesnakes have an opportunity to determine that, and so older snakes want to keep their venom for their prey. And if they don't think they can eat you, they probably won't think you're their prey. But small snake or young snakes don't know that, so they'll release more venom than an old snake. So I assume there's a whole bunch of variables, but if I was to get bitten by a snake, I would probably want to get in as soon as possible and make sure I figure it out, but I just don't know. And I don't want to publicly say it's 2 hours or 3 hours or something.
Todd, do we have signage down there so people are aware? Yeah. Even in the snake world, the youngins just don't listen. Kelly.
So I just Googled the answer for you, Ellen. Medical help within 30 minutes of being bitten, 2 to 3 days, organs start to shut down. There you go.
I'm so thrilled about that.
Anything else for Todd? Brian?
Weed update. Well, Phragmites, of course, because I always ask you that this time of year. And just a general idea about the weed situation out there and what your weed inspectors are dealing with this year. It seems to me that producers are, like, crops are dirtier than they have been. Like traditionally, the guys that are my neighbors that are generally very good, they're struggling. And I'm just curious what your weed inspectors report back and whether they're having the same issues or the same concerns over the whole county, or whether it's just very depends where you are. Some are pristine, and then you go past a guy that normally, or a family that normally has very good results, and you think, wow, did he rent his land out this year, sort of thing. But anyways.
Yeah, it's an interesting comment. Our weed inspectors don't typically look for the weeds that we would notice agriculturally. Like this time of year, we really notice the kochia popping up above the crops and that kind of thing, or, you know, maybe the wild oats. So we don't really notice those things as our weed inspectors. But yeah, kind of anecdotally, I think there's been some multiple flushes of weeds this year that guys had a hard time with. We typically don't, so I would say it's typical to spray in crop more than once for broadleaf. So anything that kind of comes afterwards. And kochia loves heat, so, you know, you'll have a nice 7-foot kochia crop this year if you didn't have the opportunity to get in crop spraying done. I don't know that it's worse. I haven't noticed that it's worse, but we kind of joke that pretty sure kochia would germinate if you spit on the sidewalk, and it might even make a full plant. So yeah, those are the ones we typically see. In the road ditches, yeah, we had sweet clover this year, was a really difficult one, and it's not one that we necessarily fight because we're supposed to be after the noxious prohibited noxious, but it's certainly going to be creating some snow blocking if we get some snow this year. Some nice wind fence for that. And then, yeah, Phragmites, we didn't see any yet, so we're hoping that it's kind of still at bay. We tend to check it about once a month to make sure nothing's coming. I made the wonderful trip to Brandon this weekend to visit my family, and we made a stop in Oak Lake Beach, and pretty much the entire journey from kind of, I don't know, just about the Manitoba border down to Oak Lake and then into Brandon, and actually into where I grew up in Treeherne, the ditches, everywhere there's a low spot is just Phragmites. It's unbelievable. And I've been making that journey for 17 years, and maybe I just didn't notice it before, but man, oh man, is there lots of that stuff. So it's making its way west. And hopefully, like the rats, we can keep them out. It certainly didn't look like it. I seen a fellow swathing some.
Hubie?
So Todd, if you're not in a bind and you got to move a rattlesnake and relocate it, if you have a 45-gallon barrel in the back of your truck that opens, cut open, tip it over on its side, chase them in there, tip it back up, and you can move them. I did it lots of times. And you won't get hurt. You won't get hurt.
Well, the wonderful lady, Jennifer, gave us a 5-gallon bucket. I like your 45-gallon drum idea a lot better. So when I was complaining to Alberta Parks that I needed somebody to come and help me, Andrew, he's always good at listening to me. He tells me at Dinosaur Park over the years, they always deal with rattlesnakes. And he said at one time he had 12 in one 5-gallon bucket. And I felt the reflux. It was coming. I cannot do this. You guys pay me well, but I cannot do this.
Any other questions for Todd? Cole, are you willing to wait for a few more minutes? Okay. Well, Okay, let's go on to Cole then maybe, and sorry, Todd. No, it was lots of questions today. Weeds and rattlers and all sorts of things. So Cole won't be long, I'm sure, and we'll welcome you back, Todd. Good morning, Cole, and we'll let you get on with your day.
Good morning, thank you, I appreciate that. So we'll start off with the Hamlet distribution systems. We had to pull and remove pump 2 in Rolling Hills. It failed. So currently we've got it in Tabor getting rebuilt. So they will rewind and redo the electric motor and rebuild the pump as well. Like I said, it was a failure situation. So it should be about 6 weeks out before it's back and in service. And in the meantime, there are 2 other distribution pumps at that pump house that are more than capable of doing the job for the distribution for Rolling Hills. The rural water project, normal operations were observed. There's nothing of note there. Just an update on the wastewater collection, the deficiencies that we noticed at LNR, the lift station there. We contacted Xylem Flight to come out, and just a little backstory, they create package wastewater lift stations, and the new one in Tilly, the one in Rolling Hills, the one in Scandia are all Flight. So you have 3 of them in operation, so I thought they'd be a good company to reach out and talk to give us a little bit of direction. And so they came and did an on-site visit just to kind of take a look at the situation. So they're going to get back to us with their recommendations and maybe some price points and stuff like that. If they're not able to give us the full picture of what we're looking for, they will be able to give us some direction as to what kind of a contractor or a name that we can contact to come in and give us an idea of what we're looking at and what might need to be done sooner rather than later. There are a couple other things that have come up since I've written this report. So I thought I'd also mention the fact that we are conducting lead testing that for residential homeowners that the government has mandated to be done. So we're starting up that process right now. So they base it on population. A lot of your hamlets are in the lower end of the population curve. So for Rainier, for example, it's just based on a percentage. 10% of what's there's roughly 10, so we're going to have to do 1 sample in Rainier. The rest of them are all on the lower end, so we'll have to do 10 samples in places like Tilly and Scandia and etc. So we've got all that. We've got sample bottles ordered from Carroll Laboratories that for the kits to do that, and we're going to put a 2-person team handling the sampling. We should have that completed by the end of September. Once that's done, we'll have to analyze the data, see if we got any results back from lead. And there again, it might be noteworthy to mention that we do lead testing in the distribution systems and at the water treatment plant already. This has been mandated as due to the circumstances that were observed in Flint, Michigan. It kind of made everybody in North America kind of perk up and take, they wanted to know what the situation is for people's homes in the actual homeowners, their services. So that's what we're doing now. It's not your infrastructure or ours at NRSC, it's more the homeowners. What's on their service line, what's on their property from the valve, the CC valve, onto their property. So we're doing actual testing in homes. And in the rural system, we're actually going to have to be pulling some samples out of people's cisterns and stuff like that too. So that's how that works, and that's how it's a little different than what we normally do for lead testing. So we've got a 60-page document that dictates how we have to do things, and we've got some of our best people on it. We've got a chemical engineer on staff, so she's going to help us out. And yeah, we'll know more once we're done the testing and we see the results, what we'll have to do after that. But I'm assuming we're not going to get very many positives back. Everything's relatively new. Where you're going to see the problems, and especially in Flint, Michigan, is when you have older services that have lead service, and you have water chemistry that allows for the leaching of the lead out of these services, is where you're going to see higher values, and I'm not anticipating a lot of that here. So, but we'll know more in the coming months, and I'll keep you posted on how everything goes. And that's the only thing that I have added that wasn't in my report, with the written report. So if there's any questions, be more than happy to answer.
Wayne?
Clint, didn't he add something to the water that made the lead leach out?
They changed their raw water source. So they were receiving it from point A, then changed it to point B. And then there was a difference in pH, like a large difference. And then they had to do some treatment differences because of the quality of the raw water. But when in doing so, that changed water chemistry. So they didn't have a problem at first, but when they changed it over to the different raw water source, it caused the leaching out of the
And you're
older
on
lead
top of
services.
that right now, so we shouldn't have no problem.
I don't think so. Like, I don't anticipate any problems at all. But, well, that's why we're doing it. We'll find out if that assumption is correct. And then you don't have to worry about it when all the new stuff is lead-free. Like, some of the plumbing fixtures there, like brass, anytime you have, copper's fairly good, like, because it's just copper, but when you have brass, sometimes they can use lead in that process. Well, the new stuff doesn't. And then lead services haven't been manufactured or being used since 70s-ish. So anything newer than that, you shouldn't have a problem. So.
Anything else?
Molly?
Yes, Marie?
Two questions for Cole. For the lead testing, is there compensation for your staff to go out and do that? And the second question, phase 2 of the regional water, did you get phone calls, people that are interested?
I am not aware of anybody requesting hookups for phase 2 or inquiries about that. I haven't checked with our admin staff to see. I haven't asked that specific question, but nothing's been forwarded on to me, so I am assuming no, but I could definitely look into that to see if we had any inquiries. And your first question, compensation. We get mandated with a lot of things. We do a lot of water testing that I can't do anything about when it comes to water treatment. Like pharmaceuticals is a good for instance. We have to test for a lot of those things. I can't get rid of them even when we do find them. But the government wants the information, and the easiest way to do that is to mandate water utilities to go out and do that. And then they say, thank you very much, take the data, and at the end of the day, the ratepayers are the ones that are paying for it. So to answer your question, no, we're not even getting a nickel to do this.
Thanks, Cole. Any other questions? Hubie?
I had one resident yesterday asking about the second phase of water, so there is some interest.
Any other questions? Brian?
Just maybe share some of the peaks and stuff you talked about last night. We
Yes,
had an
I'm
NRSC
sorry,
meeting.
that slipped my mind.
So that's fine.
Just for some general information and some...
Could you speak into your mic?
Okay, sorry
please?
about that.
Thank you.
So last time I was here, I mentioned that we had the second highest month all time for water production. We have since set a new record. July of 2021 is officially our highest production month in NRSC's history, and we beat the previous record by 18%. So we produced 575,000 cubic meters of water in the month of July. So I didn't see anything under 15,000 cubes per day, and we were flirting with all on I'd say 3 or 4 occasions our 24-hour peak. So it was a very busy month for the water treatment plant, and kudos to our staff and the plant itself for being able to keep up, and it did. And I shouldn't say being able to keep up. We were about 2/3 capacity is the maximum we've ever reached. So we're still got plenty of room, but it was definitely busy. It was definitely working through the last month.
That's good. It's all good. Seeing no other questions, thanks, Cole. We'll let you get on with your day.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Ariana, just for clarity, the 11 o'clock delegation, have we switched those around?
It was right on the agenda, so Mr. Crosby is 11, and then Stewart's coming in at 11:30.
Okay, because I had rural fire at 11. Anyhow, I would like to finish up the ag service business quickly, just before Todd gets away, so he can get back to his other responsibilities as well. So if we can just go on to item 9, finish her up, I don't think it's going to take too long. Thanks, Todd.
All right, so we're just doing the potential declaration. So I think we've talked about, I know we talked about this last time, and it's still dry. So there's that. We still have the opportunity to declare a state of ag disaster if we want. I think there is a fair number of municipalities that have. I listed the few when I wrote this, but since then I think 40 Mile has done so. There's quite a few. I believe I emailed you guys the link to the agserviceboards.com or .ca, and that outlines all of the areas, as well as it outlines the areas that the ag recovery is being, Anyways, it outlined on the map. The AFSC had outlined which areas were going to receive some help, maybe some tax deferral stuff. So was that, I emailed you guys that to stay on top of it if you wanted to. The maps that I included all come from the Alberta Climate Information Service. There's many maps you can create. You filter, you press the buttons, and it creates a new one for you. But I thought the interesting ones that I created anyways, I included for you. So we are in about a 1 in 25 year dry spell by the looks of things. And we're recording average daily temperatures that we kind of see in about that 6 to 12 year cycle. That's kind of where we're at. So I think when you put them both together, that's what you kind of have right now, is just a difficult, dry, hot summer. So I think we have 311-ish thousand acres of irrigation and 900,000 acres of non-irrigated grasslands that are certainly dry. Probably water access this year is the concern right now. I think the grass stalks sounded like they were going into this year good, but water is the concern. We have lots of dugouts that are awfully dry. Yeah, probably I wouldn't necessarily think, in my opinion, that we would be in a disaster state this year. But if we don't receive some snow and some moisture in the fall and the spring, next year would certainly be harder, if that makes any sense. Just because I think everybody had planned so well. The livestock producers have planned very well for carryover in their pastures, that we're not seeing that dramatic effect this season. And that's kind of what I have to prelude into it. It's a very political decision, and it's definitely not mine to make.
Yeah. Thanks, Todd. It's been 2 weeks since we discussed this, and I know it is a political decision. It doesn't mean that anything is triggered from what we decide. However, I've decided that it is show some support for our community of agricultural producers, and it's a stressful time. Coming out of COVID and getting back to normal living, and the heat and the lack of moisture, I think it's become fairly obvious that it's not a good situation. And you mentioned next year, and I mean, there won't be grass next year unless things change awfully quickly. And I've sort of, from a personal perspective, in the last 2 weeks, seen lots of things happen just in our farming operation that tells me that I think we should be declaring an agricultural disaster. Just my thoughts. Tracy, I see lots of hands.
Yeah, I was wanting to make a motion for that to declare the state of ag disaster. In the past 2 weeks, I've been talking to different ranchers, and you know, there is that issue of the ponds, the lack of water, and the grazing is diminishing really rapidly. So then you're going to end up with, you know, you might have some forage carryover, and you might have some feed carryover, but you're going to be using it sooner, and then that takes more, and then depending on what, like, it's bad out there. Like, even though we're an irrigation country, it's bad. You know, it's...
Okay, thanks, Tracy. So Tracy's made a motion. Anybody else want to say anything? Ellen and Hubie, perhaps?
Todd, is there any drawbacks for declaring an agriculture disaster? Like, let's say we did this today. Like, there is no, obviously, we're not for sure that they're going to get compensation, but it's a possibility. So if we're not declaring an agriculture disaster, could our producers miss out if the governments, the federal, provincial, decide to hand out compensation? So if we were not declared, would they still qualify for compensation?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to a little bit of what Molly said. I believe that the declaration is, it's more showing the support and outlining that, you know, we have a very bad situation. But I don't know that the province or the federal government uses these declarations for that determination. So they're not going to say, you know, 15 municipalities out of 69 declared, they're the only 15 municipalities, producers, that are going to receive help if they need it.
Fortunately, the government does try to use statistics. And as Todd pointed out, already there's one that from the DMAG group, the last comment in his information, that the tax deferral eligible regions, we are not already in that particular area. And I think that refers to where you can sell off your cattle herd and defer some of the tax for another year. So no, there's no triggering of anything, as I believe it's more of a support for an industry that's part of our heritage, part of our economic development, big part of our region. So that's what it's all about. Hubie.
Thanks, Molly. I was just going to make the same motion that Tracy made. She
Okay.
already did, so thanks.
All right, well, we'll get on with things. Clarence.
So are there any parameters? What is a disaster and what is not? Or is it just, you know, it's just political? Like, you mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel for the people that are really heavily affected by this right now. But I look around and to say that we have an agricultural disaster in the county of Newell, and I see potatoes up to here, and I see corn that's 6.5 feet tall, and that's not a disaster. Even, you know, we live in the Palliser Triangle. And people should know that, you know, if you're at 50% precipitation or even 80%, well, that's only 2 inches. We're always dry. So what is a disaster? And I'd really like to know. You know, and I'll, you know, if I knew that this is going to make a difference, maybe mental health, it's worth doing. But other than that, what is it? I look at the numbers. 1 in 12 years that happens, is that a disaster? We should be planning for it. And most people do. You know, and what you know, how much is it really? And I look at, you know, myself when I was still farming, I had 6 quarters of irrigation, I had 2 quarters of dry land. Well, if I didn't get a thing off that dry land, it didn't mean anything. And even in a good year, I get 10 cows. You know, like, now if I had 40 quarters of lease and that was my sole income, that'd be pretty, you know, that'd be pretty drastic. And so there are people in that position. But when do we as a county say it's a disaster in agriculture in our county? I don't know what the parameters are, unless, except to make people say, hey, we realize you have a problem. We realize that there's a problem. But is it a disaster? I don't know. Because I don't know what the parameters are for disaster.
Oh, goodness, Matt has an answer to that.
I don't know if I have the answer to it, but my understanding is we can request from AFC a crop report for our region specific. Some of the other ag disasters which have been declared, if you look at Vulcan, you know, they provide their stats for the cereals and the oil seeds. And the stat they reference is, you know, 50 to 90% are in poor or worse condition. So maybe that would be a report that would be useful here, because it kind of looks like if more than half is in a dire situation, because it should be widespread throughout the municipality. We kind of have, you know, that dynamic of lots of irrigated land, but we've also got, I think we really are going to have some producers who are in dire situations. So, I mean, the guidebook from RMA says, you know, you can monitor it, keep looking every couple of weeks. So you'll always have the opportunity to declare the disaster. If more information is needed to support that decision for council, we could go to AFSC and see if we can't get that crop report for our region specific to support that.
Clarence, excuse me, from my perspective, everything you said is quite accurate. It is for me, as I mentioned earlier, support for a group of our producers that are going to have a disaster. And we'll never have a complete agricultural disaster in the county of Newell for the reasons that you have said. However, there is a large group of people rely upon grass that isn't growing, water that's disappearing, and so that for me is significant enough. So I don't know if there'll ever be complete parameters as you talk about. And you know what, mental health and encouragement and support I think is good, personally. Anyhow, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Seeing no one opposed, the motion is carried. Thank you for the discussion. It's something that we have always taken a little bit more seriously, I believe, than other communities perhaps. And we've been to conventions where people talk about insurance for everything under the sun and the need for people to prepare for disasters, absolutely. But sometimes I think support of our agricultural producers is important, and I think this is one of the times. So we'll move on from there, and Todd can keep us in the know about anything else that's going on. And thank you, Todd. Okay, we'll get back to our agenda, sorry. I wanted to free Todd up for his other duties because he does a lot of our moderating of this meeting from a technical computer part of life. And I'm still confused Who is the first delegation?
Brooks Bandits is the first delegation. Sorry about that.
Okay. So gentlemen, you can join us. At the table, and we will get to your report, and we've got it, got your presentation up there as well. Perfect. We'll do some quick around the table intros. It's been a while. I'm Molly Douglas, and I chair the meetings of our council, and I'm from the GEM Finnegan North part of the country, and we'll whip over to Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel Juss, and I represent an area north and east of the city of Brooks.
Good morning, Tracy Fife, and hi, Paul. I represent Division 5, which is south and west around the city of Brooks.
Good morning, Brian DeJong, Div 8 around the village of Dutchess.
Morning, I'm Kelly Chrisman from the west side of the county, around Bassano.
Good morning,
Good
Clarence
morning.
Samuel, Warren Hills.
Clarence, I'm there.
I thought we went all the way around and you were last.
No. Anne-Marie Phillipson, Division 3, Patricia area. Good morning.
Good morning, Matt Fensky, County Administrator.
Wayne Hammerton, Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good morning, Nathan. Good morning, Paul. QB Division 2, Tilly.
Good morning, I'm Ellen Unruh, and I represent Division 7 around the village of Rosemary.
Good morning, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
So welcome. We'll let you get on with your presentation and your introductions.
Good morning, and thank you for the introduction and allowing us to spend a few minutes here. My name is Nathan Crosby. I'm the business manager for the Brooks Bandits, and I'll let Paul introduce himself first.
Paul Seaton, president of the Brooks Bandits. Good morning.
Perfect. So we're very excited about the upcoming season. Last season was an interesting one, and I know many of you I've seen at games, so really appreciate this. We're looking forward to getting back to a regular season starting here. Well, the players will be reporting to camp here at the end of the month, and then September we'll be up and running, and really looking forward to having fans back in the building. So, and one of the things that we're really excited about this season, not only is the full season and having fan participation and everything that comes with that, but for the first time ever, we're going to be hosting the 2021 Alberta Junior Hockey League Showcase, which we feel is a great way to return to normal for our team, is to host this event for the first time. It's a 4-day event that will bring all 16 Alberta Junior Hockey League teams under one roof from Thursday, September 30th to Sunday, October 3rd at the Centennial Regional Arena. Each team will compete in 2 regular season games, and in total, 16 games will be played, offering players a chance to compete in front of more than 200 scouts from NHL, NCAA, and Canadian university hockey teams, as well as fans and the families of the players. This event was previously hosted in Camrose for several years, and Spruce Grove before that, both of which had multiple ice surfaces, and we are going to be hosting this event all at the CRA, obviously on one sheet of ice. The reason we're here today, the Bandits and the Showcase Committee, which Paul and I are both on, want to ensure the success of the event by exploring any funding or support from the County of Newell. We've already secured funding from the City of Brooks and Hockey Alberta. We want to include the county on this opportunity to once again
show our ability to host successful events, much like we did in 2019 when we hosted the National Junior A Championship to great success. The showcase will bring over 400 players to Brooks, 80 staff, which means 480 hotel rooms have already been booked for them. Nearly 60 team meals will be ordered from local restaurants. We've also booked 20 rooms for league officials and 32 rooms for referees. On top of that, hundreds of parents, family members will be attending, which means more business for hotels, restaurants, gas stations, and local businesses. All 200 scouts have booked rooms in our local hotels as well and are using a local vendor for all of their meals. The event will attract thousands of fans and volunteers to the CRA for these 4 days. We estimate the economic impact of the event to be at $500,000. With thousands of visitors coming, it could also lead to marketing opportunities for the County of Newell during the games. The success of this event will open the door for more events in the future to be hosted at the CRA and show our region that we can not only host major events, but make them successful on and off the ice. Thank you.
So there is no presentation, like this is it's just a picture. Okay, I'm confused. So did this come to joint services already? I'm confused. No. Okay. Okay. So this is an individual ask. You said the City of Brooks has already committed funding or committed support.
Yes, the use of the facility, and we've also received a grant from Brooks Tourism as well. We are planning to, due to the amount of teams that will be at the CRA over the days and with the space we have at the arena, we've actually are going to be ordering pop-up tents for around the arena to allow players to warm up for their games so they're not in the arena bowl during other games. So there's an added expense to that. We're looking at 3 additional tents outside for the players to warm up in.
Okay. Questions then, besides my muddling? Ellen, Hubie, and Wayne.
Yeah, I would just like to mention that the Brooks Region Tourism is also, the grant itself is also being half funded by the county as well. So I think you got 5,000, correct? Yeah, so 2,500 is also being attributed by the county.
So there'll be a lot of volunteers for this event too, right? Working.
Yes, we will expect to have about 100 to 150 volunteers for the event.
Wayne? Yeah. Any other questions? Get information while we have the chance. One question I have is, when we hosted the Cup a few years ago, the city and the county backed that application, right? And gave you some money that we would get back when everything was accounted for. Was that everything ever accounted for? Do we ever get back anything from that? I'm just curious. Matt, you might know.
I think the most recent motion we had for support towards the Brooks Bandits was for the 2021 World Junior A Challenge bid, where council approved a motion to provide $25,000, and on condition that $25,000 would be paid back out of the profits. Up to $25,000 would be paid back out of the profits from the event. And the motion also indicated that we would keep that $25,000 and set it aside for future events. That never happened due to COVID, right? I think the 2020 was postponed and it's supposed to happen in the host community, which I can't remember.
Yes, so an update on that is Hockey Canada hasn't made an official announcement yet, but Cornwall, Ontario is supposed to host the 2021 World Junior A Challenge this December, which would push us back a year.
So that would still happen but in 22 possibly?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. That's strange that they didn't let you guys do it to catch up.
Well, many of the Hockey Canada events, not just the World Junior A Challenge, but the Centennial Cup, which was the national championship, any of the communities that had already been approved to host basically got pushed back 1 year to make up for COVID.
Okay.
And that is still the case. We do intend to bid for the next available national championships, Centennial Cup, but there's uncertainty as to who will. There were hosts lined up, but because everything's been deferred now 2 years, the first one available I think was 23, and it's now 25. So I think everything is spoken for until 25, and we do intend to bid for that when Hockey Canada opens up requests for bids. But not public news yet is that we were awarded the World Junior A Challenge for 21, but COVID hit just before the announcement was due to be made.
Matt. Thank you, Paul.
So just to remind council, we have a relatively fresh agreement with the City of Brooks where we support the cost of recreation. The CRA would be included in that. So, you know, our 20% is in there. I would recommend, if we're looking at something over and above the facility subsidy, that we refer that to joint services, which meets next week, actually, I think. So if there was a specific request for dollar amounts or sponsorship or something that way, I think that would be, you know, in the spirit of the partnership which we have with the city, I think that would be where you'd want to entertain that request.
Yeah, and I think that's good to be reminded of that. That's why we have the Joint Services Committee, so that in the past, the ask could go through that. So it's a city-county together thing. So I don't know if anyone has mentioned to go to Joint Services to you guys yet, or have you just talked to the city separately and now up to us separately, Nathan?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, we haven't set up anything with joint services yet.
And I'm not trying to send you on a goose chase. It's just that in the past, it started many years ago, people would come to us, they'd come to the city, it was always back and forth, well, they did this, they, you know, and so we have come together to look at these things. And as Matt pointed out, we already support the city's recreation facilities more than we ever have, actually. And so when they say, you know, CRA can be used, whatever, we've put money into that too. And the $25,000 or whatever it was that was mentioned, 2,500, yes. Yeah, anything that comes from the Brooks tourism region is also County of Newell supported. So I don't know if that's helpful at all to you, but.
Well, point taken. Apologies.
No.
So
it's
we
good.
didn't go that route. The city actually probably should have mentioned that avenue to us, I think, but they didn't.
Yeah, well, and it's sometimes confusing. And it's good for you to come here. You get some press. Sandra, I'm sure, will write up something about what's happening. Give you guys a little bit more press for publicity for the September, October dates, and so it's not all lost. And I think it's good for us to also hear, and our ratepayers to hear about what's going on through this avenue as well. So, yeah, it's all good. Tracy?
Yeah, I was just gonna, you talked about, you kind of got a handle on what the economic impact would be. I think for joint services, if you could have probably sort of some recommendation or ideas on budget and what your ask would be, so that we know a specific amount, so that we're, what do you need, or what do you, how much dollars are you looking for, or it's going to cost us, 500,000 to put this on and we need 40, or if you could kind of be more specific, so I think that would help our committee if you can present it there.
Brian.
And I guess my question is in regards to the national championship that we hosted the Bandits hosted in 2019. As a community, I guess we is appropriate. What was the economic benefit of that? I think about that championship, 6 teams, and all the people and the coaches got 16 now. So I just want to get in my mind, I know it's a different pool you're swimming in, but I'm just curious about the going back to the economic benefit or the economic advantage that the area received as far as the 2019 championship.
It went beyond the financial in that Brooks portrayed itself exceedingly well, but the financial situation, the economic impact, we believe, was 3.5 for perhaps more million in that particular week. The surplus, we don't talk profit and loss, we always talk surplus, was around 350,000 that remains in the community. And some announcements will be made prior to this season in terms of that particular detail. It's not public news yet. Hockey Canada controls when we can release that information. And there will be detail as to the beneficiaries of those funds. Does that answer your question?
Thanks, Paul, and I appreciate that, because we did receive some previous information about sort of guesstimates as far as previous tournaments and what they had done, but I don't think we ever actually received something. And obviously, there's still some information forthcoming, but it'd be nice to be able to tell us or tell the community, well, this is actually what this benefited our, the economic spin-off that was realized by our because of this tournament. I think it was well done and well promoted and well received, and this is just another stepping stone, but it's good to have the financials to be able to say, well, it's not the same, but it's not much different, I don't think.
Thank you. And yeah, just to be clear, that isn't Brooks Bandits money. It is under the heading of legacy and can only be expended with Hockey Canada permission. They have to agree to everything we request.
Other questions? Clarence.
Maybe I missed it, but what exactly is the ask? And secondly, I guess, did we expend that 25,000 that time? It never did go. Okay.
Yeah, good question. The ask is, we are looking for, basically we said, well, we're working with the city of Brooks, we're working with Hockey Alberta. We wanted to make sure that the county was included. I wasn't aware of the $5,000 we got and the details on that. But we are looking for any sort of help we can receive. It's just a mere, you guys we've had a great partnership with the county over previous events, and we wanted to include you on this. The tents is something that I think comes up in our mind as an added expense that will be of great value to the event. That'll run at about a $5,000 cost, so we're looking to make up that money.
And if I may, I think what we will do, your presumably requesting that we go to joint services. What we will do in the meantime is single out some items of expense that we believe will be of value, add return value to the county, in promotional value or whatever.
I think that would be good. Yep. Matt?
Yeah, I was just going to mention if Nathan wanted to work with me to get those details. Our meeting is on Tuesday the 10th, so if you can, put pen to paper and get something by the end of Monday, we could add it as a post-agenda item to kick around on Tuesday next week.
It's fast. But that would be great. I mean, we need to get on it, and yeah, we can get it. The three of us are on that. Well, along with Matt, actually, Lionel and Tracy and I sit on the joint services, along with three members from the city of Brooks as well, and other miscellaneous people. I should say that, other miscellaneous, that makes it sound trivial, but other people. And so we will be there, and that's great. Matt can work with Nathan and help you out, get her
Yeah, we
together.
can definitely have that all together.
All right. Clarence.
So just so I understand the situation with Hockey Canada and their control of your purse strings. So those, you do a great job. You've got, what was it, something north of 300,000 from the tournament. Is it staying in the community, or does it stay in the community, or is it broader than that?
No, at their insistence, it stays in the community. Minor hockey will be a beneficiary. Facility improvements, not necessarily attached to the Bandits, and so forth. Scholarships. There's one other. I can't think off the cuff. But it.
And future events too. Bids for future events.
Excellent question, Clarence, and good answer too. I mean, that's important that it stay in the community, so perfect. We're all sort of rusty, I think, thinking about hockey and sports and all the things that haven't been happening, so it's good to see you guys here today and get us back into thinking along those lines. So anybody else have anything else to ask or to add? Gentlemen? No? All good? Thank you for coming today, taking time out of your schedules and helping us understand more and to get ready for this, which is pretty, it's going to be pretty cool.
Apologies again for taking the wrong route, but...
Hey, no need for that, Paul. You guys work hard at what you do, and we appreciate what you do for our community in a general manner, as well as the economy, so it's all good. All good. Oh, Wayne.
It's the exhibition game start. I've got tickets to that too, so.
First game is September 4th, and then regular season September 17th.
Oh, that's soon.
And then this is 2 weeks after that.
Yeah, okay.
Busy
It's
times.
going to be busy, which is good.
Yeah.
It's good. Thank you. You bet. See you Tuesday. All right. Stuart, please join us. And everyone will be interested to hear this report. Although I forgot to put it on my expense sheet, I made it to a meeting with the fire chiefs a week ago last night, I think it was, that Stuart was hosting. It was actually a regular meeting with our Newell fire chiefs that had been postponed due to the fire. And so they were getting together at the fire hall in Brooks, and I said I would like to just show up for a bit to say thank you for the good work that they had done for us all, because that was a very significant event. And when you hear from Stuart, who was very apologetic that night because he didn't have this ready to rock and roll. And he's been a busy guy, because you'll hear that this fire just, you know, when I heard it was out, it was great. Little did I know that it kept going for numerous days. So they, everyone has been very tied up with this. And so thank you, Stuart, to be here again today, and I look forward to hearing more and to see your presentations. It's intriguing, and I think one of the things that Stuart said that I'll always remember from this is that this, in his 20 years of doing this work, is the biggest thing that they've ever dealt with. So imagine our volunteers, and you know, they're dealing with it. So lots of pride in what has been accomplished, I think we should be feeling, and appreciation. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, through the chair, to Reeve and Council. If I could just talk on one thing before I get to my presentation. The City of Brooks is dealing with a situation right now. We've got a missing 15-year-old girl in the City of Brooks. CSAR is currently, Southern Alberta Search and Rescue is gathering at the fire hall to do a search here this afternoon for this young lady. So Maria is a 15-year-old female that's 5'7", long blonde hair, and the last picture, or the picture that we received this morning, she was wearing a frilly blouse with a long pink skirt down to about the ankle with flowers on it, and we're told that that is probably what she is wearing right now. So I thought maybe this was a good avenue for those that are streaming in and listening today, that if you see this young lady, please let the RCMP know right away, and hopefully we can have a successful and good conclusion to this today. All right, perfect. So yeah, I've got a couple parts, because yesterday we performed our after action review on this fire, to which Matt and Mark sat in on that, and it was a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be. I was trying to keep it within 2 hours, and we were getting pretty close to about 3 hours before we were done, but a lot of great questions and comments that came out from that. So I'll talk on that right at the end here. So this call, I receive a phone call from Deputy Chief Lane Westwick from Patricia that says, "Hey Stu, it looks like there's a large plume of smoke in the northeast corner of the county there. Not too sure if it's in our area or if it's Cypress County or special areas, but it's fairly big." So I deployed immediately to that call, and when I deployed to that call, I called Cypress County, the Box Springs Fire Chief, Jason Linton, and the new District Chief, Brad Stratty, out of Strathmore, and said, "Hey, we've got something going on. I'm not too sure if it's in your area or my area." So Chief Linton started coming eastward. I went westward, and at the time, I really didn't think to give special areas a call, Rob Palmer or Glenn Durand, but they were dispatched fairly quickly once we realized that it was a fairly serious and major event that was happening there. On my opening picture there, and I apologize, maybe I should go back. When I first arrived on scene, it's pretty much, that's exactly what I saw. And at the time I thought, boy, if we can get to this fairly quickly, we could probably get it knocked down and get it out. At the time though, the wind was blowing quite seriously with 20-kilometer-an-hour winds, and they were heading, and it was heading towards the coulee. And my concern was we need to get it out before it gets in the coulee, because once it gets down in there, we're going to have nothing but trouble. And there was, in that area, there's I think there's 3 drops, to which it ended up going into one 100% and started down the second one, but we got it stopped before that had happened, and that was with efforts of Quickway Air Service that came in and started dropping water in those coulees, just because it's too dangerous for our firefighters to get down in that area with it being as smoky as it was and things like that. So Quickway did an excellent job of starting to knock it down, and away we went. So this second picture, this is on the north side of Highway 544, because it was some time before I called for the province to come in with their air tanker to do a drop for us. And you can see that long fire line going along the west side there, and that is quite a bit of fire. Perspective-wise, we're about 1,500 feet in the air, so it may look like a little red line on the picture there, but it's actually quite the wide berth that's going down there. And as it was going down that west side, down in the bottom right-hand corner of the picture there, that's the Tide Lake gas plant, which is a sour gas plant, and a major concern that if that fire got too close to that. I think the one thing that I learned yesterday, because I'm not a well guy and I don't know a lot about stuff like that, I guess these big plants have eye sensors that actually can detect when fire or flames are getting close to these facilities. And what it does is it sets off an emergency shutdown within that plant and closes everything in. So a little bit of a rest easy after I had heard that. But of course, when I'm looking at these pictures after and I'm up in the air going, wow, we're getting a little too close to that. And Mark went up with me in the helicopter. And while we were looking, we said, we need to get at that because we could see we call them fingers that come out from the flank of the fire or the side of the fire. And they were starting to creep that way because the wind was kind of changing direction a little bit from that south to a southwest. And of course, there was just some major concern about that. So the pictures you see now were more on the east side and to the head of the fire. So we're getting closer. But as we go down that area, you can see that there's just a ton of flame there, and a lot of personnel that needed to be there to try and get all that good stuff out. Very smoky. Visibility was horrible. It didn't matter what we did, and we can see that kind of that egg shape and that fire line along the left-hand side there. To see in there and attack that was very, very difficult. The positive there was black, as you can see in the picture, kind of all the way around it. And unfortunately, it did burn all of that land because there's really not too many spots. You'll see a few aerial shots that we have just, grass in the middle of all the black. It really ate up everything, and I'll go through the sequence of events here in just a little bit. So this is the head of the fire, and it was very neat to see this. Not that I like seeing tragedy, but when you're up there and you're watching this as it goes, and I've got a video that shows the head of this fire. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a crater that's kind of right off to the side there. One of the things from our lesson learned, we talked about graders and how we operate it. And unfortunately, when some of the graders were creating these fire lines for us, they were pushing the vegetation onto the burn side instead of away from the burn side. And that's always a very bad idea because you get those windrows that are kind of round, and when the fire gets into them, they'll stop and smother for a little while, but as soon as the breeze gets in there, it picks right back up and creates a problem. Thus our flare-ups that happened Friday around lunchtime and then again Monday morning. So there was definitely some major events there. That's a really, really good picture that shows that west side, that fire line that's there. We have those 4 or 5 houses, pump houses that are there. All that land there eventually does get burnt up. It gets burnt up to that and past it quite a ways actually. So that's while we're trying to get it out. So this is a tractor that unfortunately is at the origin or the start of where the fire happened, and unfortunately this tractor was the culprit of what happened there. I apologize on the other picture. That was a Facebook picture that I was able to use, and it's a little bit on the blurry side. So these next couple pictures are a little bit nicer, and we can see a little bit of heat damage there. Where the drive joins into the lawnmower on this side here. And then on the opposite side, we can see that heat transfer a little bit more. Plus, we also see in the front passenger tire there's quite a bit of blackening that happened in there. I have not talked with the actual tractor driver as of yet, but I have talked with the well company that hired him and 2 representatives from them. And the pieces that I see with this tractor match up with what they're talking about on what happened. So he's driving down the road. He did have a water source right in behind them just in case something did happen. Unfortunately, they caught the grass on fire. In a panic, he tried to use the mower to get rid of the fire instead of using the water source. So then that just shot a bunch of ambers around. And unfortunately from that, it started what we know now to be about 5,000 acres that burnt up. They tried to use a fire extinguisher at first to put it out rather than actually turning their pump on and using the 100 gallons of water that they had. So that was another issue that if they had gotten that going, maybe the outcome might have been a little bit different. So that's just a little bit there. So with this perspective here, I was trying to show the units that we had, and I was really hoping that helicopter was going to do a 180 so that we could see just the line of vehicles that were down this range road 113. It was pretty spectacular actually to see how many pieces of equipment were just standing there or there to help out. You know, the Hollerite colonies, I know two in particular that are on my ORIC chart there that came in and really assisted us with, 20,000 gallon tenders to feed water, a couple 2,000 gallon tenders and stuff like that. So what we're looking at here, this perspective is looking northward or towards the coulees. And that's Highway 544 that's sitting right there. And if I carry on, this is a little bit better picture. And you can just see the massive area there, right? It's that alone is fairly big area just on the one side of the 544. And then we have that fire is traveling in a northward direction there. So I'm probably looking at the head of the fire there is what I'm looking at with that fire line that's down there. And that fire line that's there has got to be, it's got to be almost a half a kilometer long. I'm way up in the air. So perspective wise, there's a lot more fire there than you think there is. And then as we look back, you can just see that plume of smoke. I got a call from the district deputy chief in Taber, county of Taber, and says, "What are you guys doing over there in the county of Newell?" And I guess he had received a bunch of 911 calls, and their fire departments were out searching for a fire that really wasn't there. It was the smoke from this fire that was carrying over into the county of Taber. And I've got lots of reports from a lot of different people from Tilly and Rolling Hills that say the smoke was just ridiculous that was kind of blowing that way. So it made sense when I got the call from Joe Briere there, and they're the outfit that actually bought our rescue truck, the town of Taber. So Jem's old rescue truck. So I'm going to move on because that takes a while. There's a good picture of the Tide Lake gas plant and how close that fire line is, right? It just looks like a lot of smoke there, but as we start to travel over top of it, if you look close enough, you can see that there is a fire line in there with that smoke. And when I'm up in the helicopter here, and it was one of the things that came out in the action review, I guess I turned command over to somebody, to one of the lieutenants there from the Brooks Fire Department, and that was simply because he was the closest person to say, okay, I want you to take over, because I wanted to get a bird's eye view of what was happening on this event and what I had to do and where I had to place my assets to get this fire out 100%. So, and I'll talk about the action review after and how we could have made that a whole lot better. The one complaint that came yesterday in the action review was it was radio silence for about 40 minutes compared to the first 4.5, 5 hours of this event, where I was constantly chattering with everybody, making sure that things were moving around and doing what we needed to do to try and get it out. And the story relayed to me there yesterday was it was pretty eerie because nobody knew where we were at, what we were doing, and what was going on. So that was definitely when I leave command to somebody, it should be somebody that's fairly experienced that can keep things moving, and a lot of it is talking and giving those firefighters confidence that, hey, you guys are doing the right thing. I know this is big and it's huge, but we're doing everything we can to get this out, and everybody's doing an excellent job. For me, I feel it's a lot of coaching as I go along with these guys and get them to do it. So this is the head of the fire, and you can see, again, we're 1,500 feet up in the air, and that looks fairly wide right there in itself, right? So just imagine if you get down closer, you know, it's not, you know, just a couple feet. We're talking that's probably a 20-foot berth there in the front there. That's just heading towards the roads, and that's why it jumped the 544, because, you know, we trained in the 1001 or the 1051s that we just did recently that, you know, for the flame height, it's 3 times for the jump, right? So if you've got something there that's 20 feet wide, that's going about 8 feet high, it'll jump a highway pretty darn quick if you don't catch it on time. So this was one of the provincial tankers that came in, or the provincial tanker, and they did 2 drops for us, and this one here was on the head of the fire. And what they do is they don't drop it right on the flame. They drop the retardant just before the flame, and the bird dog comes in, and that's the person that comes in and warns all the firefighters that a drop is about to happen, because if that 2,000 gallon drop happens on a person, it'll do significant damage to them. They will get hurt. Stefan Best shared yesterday from Alberta Forestry. He was at this critique, which was fantastic, that they did a test where they put a truck on the runway, and then they ran that retardant over top of it and just dropped it, and it rolled that truck a few times. So person, right? So the bird dog comes in, he scouts everything out, he tells everybody that the plane's about to come in. The bird dog will come in a second time then, and actually when he cuts straight up into the air, that's telling the plane that's coming in behind him, the tanker, that that's where he needs to start his drop. And it's kind of neat to see that go, as it's almost like you know, the pairs ice skating, where they're skating around, and it's quite the show as they go along there. I wish we had seen the bird dog, or I had a video of that bird dog. This fire was 17.4 kilometers long, so where my command posts were both times, I could not see the end of the fire. There was no way I was seeing it. And I did relocate about 3/4 of the way through to the north side of the highway, so that I was a little bit closer to the head, because I just wanted to be a little closer to the action to know what was going on. So that video there, the plane was way off in the distance. Fire Chief from GEM, Dwayne Clausen, shot that because part of his job was to stay on that north corner with Bow City, and they were just hitting hot spots. So GEM's truck has a 3,000 gallon pumper tender. Bow City is only a 5,000 or 500 gallon front mount pumper that's being replaced here with Scandia's engine, hopefully around Christmas time, but it doesn't have a lot of water. So in that way, thank you very much to the County of Newell for getting those big water resources so that we have lots of water when we're on scenes like this. So the 2 trucks stayed up in this corner, and they finished getting things done. So now I'm going to zoom in here, and you're going to see that's the drop plane that's right in the center of the screen there, and he's going to come around to that smoke line. And the one thing that I was really amazed with it, we saw that drop that happened in front of the fire engine or beside that fire engine, but it really didn't show how long that drop was. This video here right near the end here, and again, I'm not a videographer guy, so that's why we're looking at just dead air sky there right now. But I am going to scan back down in just a second, and that plane is kind of dead center, middle of the screen. And he's going to come along, and you can actually see how long his drop is as he goes along there. And again, those fingers are starting to come out towards that gas plant, so that's why his instruction, there's the drop there, was to drop that retardant. You can see kind of how far away from the line he is, right? So as the fire got there, it would knock it down, and then just about a kilometer back, we had our fire trucks ready to come in and start hitting those hot spots that were there to stop it from progressing along to that edge there. So this Colton Shewitt from Patricia, he Facebooked this video that we're looking at right now. This one's a little more raw footage to what he posted, because he can only do a certain amount. Modern technology, I was able to messenger him and say, hey, I identified who I was, I'm doing a report, would I be able to steal the raw footage from this? And he said, absolutely, and anything you need to help, because we don't have a drone, and in some ways this might be a a good segue to say maybe we need a drone within the County of Newell for two purposes. One, we can see the damage that's here. Two, as the days went on and we kept going back, we found hot spots where if we had a drone, we could get right in to see exactly what it was, where it was, and then give location, because the drone, if you buy the right one, can give you the GPS, and then that helps quick way, or whoever's doing the water drops, to hit the exact spot, because there were some situations where there was a bit of a problem. So you can see that first coulee just was devastated there. It got down in there, back up on the other side, and then started traveling around. So now this fire here this video, he's going to get elevation here in a second, but he started at the 544 and he started going north towards the end. On Friday at around 11:30, we had a flare up. So on the top left-hand corner there, we see that little extension that goes out there. And that was an additional 560 acres that burnt up on Thursday, to which we ended up with, because there were so many hot spots in this, we had all 10 fire departments on Friday at this call, as well as special areas, Jenner, and Cypress County came out again and helped us on day 2 to get all of this out. And that call went from 11:30 till about 7 o'clock at night when everybody went home. This call started Thursday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I never got home into bed till 10 o'clock Friday night. So it was a long haul for myself, just for that very first start. And then when I went out Saturday, we found a bunch of hot spots again, which ended up being another 6 fire departments out there hitting hot spots, trying to get things out. Sunday, we finally brought a farmer in with a tractor and a harrow in the problem spots. There were 3 or 4 marshy areas that just did not want to seem to go out. And as we were watching on Saturday and Sunday, all of this fire is so hot in that black, it was actually creating its own little weather pattern within that area, and the dust devils that came up from it. You know, when we see our dust devils that go across the prairie right now, they're typically little tiny things. They don't look that big. And we're talking, these things were like 3 or 4 vehicle widths. Like they were huge when they started to get going. And once they picked up the heat off the ground, got bigger and bigger. And of course, the concern with that is it gets onto the dry grass that's past the black and then starts another fire. So that's why we spent an additional 4 days at that scene. Patricia, last time that they were there was Wednesday at around 6 o'clock at night to hit a bunch of spots that were in those marshy areas again. And from that point, I made a nice email to EID and said, the emergency's over. We need you to patrol, if you could, the areas. And if need be, please bring in your graders and your tenders to hit these hot spots, because our volunteers are exactly that. They're just volunteers. And if we keep utilizing them the way we are, we're not going to have volunteers very long. So I worded it quite nicely to EID, and Rick sent an email back first thing on Thursday morning there, and said, "Yeah, no problem. We'll do that and make regular patrols." And from that point, they did regular patrols all the way through, and there was no other incident. And his email to me yesterday was that was his last patrol he was going to make, because he couldn't see any smoldering anywhere. So to me, I think that fire is 100% out and we don't have any problems. We'll cross our fingers that we don't have anything in those windrows that if things dry out and get windy again, that could create a problem. Hopefully it doesn't happen. So this one here shows the actual burn, with the second one on Friday morning with that little extension out there on the north side. And then there was one on Monday that was an additional 13 acres that was just a little bit farther down. But at the end of the day, that one was tiny compared to the other two. So we were 17.4 kilometers in total length from one end, from north to south. Going on that fire. We ended up 1.7 kilometers off the county border, so we were really close, and we were probably less than half a kilometer away from the river there, which is the divide into special areas. So we were truly in the northeast corner of that fire. And it's funny, this year I've been in the northeast corner, and I've actually been in the southeast corner as well this year, because we could see Suffield Army Base from where we were in the one corner with EID on a little bit of grazing land that burnt up there about 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, something like that. So, so a couple things that were of concern was obviously the Dinosaur Provincial Park, and you're going to see, well, right next here. So to the trails, we were 4.1 kilometers. With the help of Jennifer Blackloss there this morning, she actually gave me a layout of the print of where the park boundaries are there. So where that red box is, and you see that little red squiggle, that's exactly where the burn was. So it was in the park area. So then I was able to take my map later, which has that blue area that's all laid out, and figure out somewhat what the area was, and then of course I went to the county GIS and I measured out how big the acreage was. So on the provincial property, it was 546 acres that burnt there. So in the big scheme of things, to 5,000, it's not that much, but yeah. The Tide Lake Gas Plant, that's how close we got, 0.57 kilometers. We were 14 kilometers away from Patricia, and again, there was discussion about ECC and when we open it and stuff like that. If the wind had changed direction, Dinosaur Provincial Park, who was reported that there were 700 to 800 people in there on the Thursday when the fire happened. We know that in the hamlet of Patricia and roughly the surrounding area, we have anywhere from 300 to 500 people. I don't know that exact count, but it's a fair amount of people that are in there. So that definitely would have been a big concern. If the fire had kept going north, we were 16 kilometers away from the highway. So from where the fire stopped there at the coulee, we were less than halfway to highway number 1 in travel there. So it was quite a ways. To this building here, 29.9 kilometers. To the city of Brooks, we were 25.8 kilometers. So if that wind had changed direction, a population of 15,000 would have been needed to be evacuated, and definitely would have been warrant for an ECC being opened because of the amount of people we would have needed to get people evacuated out of the city of Brooks. So here's just a quick video. These are the things that I found over the 3 or 4 days. It's not a really good fictitious, but it's a long ways down there. This is in the coulee, and it's just burning on that bush. And now at the end of the day, is that bush going anywhere? Not really. There's black all the way around on it, and there's nothing to worry about there. But at the end of the day, the provincial park, because that's their stuff, wants to keep that there if they can. I have different opinions of that. I think you let it burn and just get new growth going, and away you go. So that was the Friday flare-up, 561 acres, just showing you the coulee area again. And then that fella from Patricia, he took some aerial shots here. So this is looking northwards towards the coulee. And the one thing that I thought was interesting was that tie, kind of looks like a tie sitting there off the edge, and it's where natural road breaks were. Plus, on either side, they had the graders in there to create fire breaks. On the left-hand side of the screen, that's a road there, which worked as a great natural break. And then on the right-hand side, that's a greater fire break that happened there, and you can see how effective that was. It stopped it right where the break was, and so that just shows that works. And then looking south, that's Highway 544 there, and so it was a wide berth right to the highway, and just that little piece got through, and then once it got through, it just carried into that stuff and kept on going. So as we go farther down, right where that brown bald spot is, right where that fire extension was that was my command post for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Just because to the top part of the screen there was a marsh area that wouldn't go out there. You can see to the right a nice little brown patch there. That was the patch where the farmer came in with a harrow and stirred everything up to try and get us to go in with our 3,000-gallon pumper tenders and just spray water in that area and try and cool it all down. For the most part, it worked pretty effectively, but there were still hot spots in there over the next 3 days as we went along. Yeah, so there's the flare-up area. There's the south end or the tip of the fire, and right up on the top right-hand corner again is that gas plant that's sitting there. So some of the totals, 20 fire departments were at this fire scene. This is just totals for Thursday. It's not over the whole weekend. 39 units were there, 100 firefighters. This next one is obviously right through to Monday, Thursday through to Monday. 37 paged fire department hours were done doing that. So 76 pieces of equipment that we know of. And then, of course, we have people that like to help. So between the firefighters and the civilians, I estimate on Thursday there was close to 200 to 250 people on that scene. A lot of people to try and take care of. This was part of my debrief yesterday, so I really wanted to demonstrate to the group that showed up there that we do use the ICS system, and this is the 201 form that we use. So basically it starts off with a situation summary and a safety briefing, and so, you know, it just talks about how I got the call from Deputy Chief and how I got there. When I got there, the tractor was on fire. There was roughly about 50 acres. And then we talk about the safety issues, about the coulee, the heavy smoke, the what else? The strong wind that was happening at that time. And then chronological events is on the next one there, and my plan objectives of what I wanted to see happen. And obviously it didn't happen too quickly because it took almost 9 hours to put this out. But my chronological events, there's my org chart, and this doesn't include civilians. So this is, the red is the County and Newell Fire Departments, and right at the very bottom of that red is other agencies, so EID, the County and Newell with their water tenders, and then we had the Spring Hill colony that was in there with their 10,000 liter bullet or 10,000 gallon bullet and a 2,000 gallon one, and then 4 trucks that had water haulers on the back end with pumps. So they helped out. The next one was special areas, Cypress County, Suffield. And then as we moved down, we got Alberta Parks. We had police there, and Corporal Cyril was very good at notifying people within the area. So he's my notification RCMP officer. And then Constable Harris and Constable Saran came down and blocked the traffic for about an hour and a half while that fire traveled across and the smoke was just too thick for safety of people going through there. And then we had our air support, so 2 planes from Cookway, and then we had 3 pieces of apparatus from Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, and that's the Bird Dog, which is the plane that goes first, the tanker that drops the water, and then the helicopter that I was in to do surveillance. Very, very dynamic, big situation here. The yellows that are up top is the way I tried to break it down so I didn't have to talk with everybody down below. So the only bad part is the first yellow says Stuart Luchies, so I was still dealing with everybody in the red as well as everybody else. So the one takeaway from that is having a deputy chief, and that deputy chief takes over for the County of Newell Fire Services while I operate the whole scene to make my life a little bit easier. And then we had Deputy Chief John McBean from Cypress County taking care of special areas, Cypress County and Suffield. Alberta Parks was Melissa Lee dealing with her staff, and David Cyril did the organization of the other 2 officers for traffic control. And then air support was another issue where Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, unfortunately I don't have their frequency in my radio, so we had to talk by phone while we were getting things organized. So that was a little bit difficult because I already had 3 radios on the go. And then on top of the 3 radios, Quickway also gave me another one that I was using to communicate with them. So Quickway's job was basically the coulee, and they did try to hit stuff as it crossed the highway to try and slow things down a little bit, but it was very apparent that they couldn't do anything because the smoke was too thick and they had to go too high, and when they do that with water, it'll all dissipate before it actually hits what we wanted to do because of that heat in the smoke. So it was quite apparent that Quickway wasn't effective on the north side. I sent them back over to the coulee, and then that's when the decision was made to call the province in, to which they did 2 drops for us. So these are all the resources, fire department, emergency-wise. I don't have civilians on what was there. So I think it's roughly getting close to about 60 or 70 pieces of equipment that are kicking around there. So just chronological, when I first show up, the yellow, the blue star is the fire, or the origin of the fire where the tractor is. The wind is kind of going in that direction, northeast, 20 kilometers an hour. So it's already a pretty brisk wind. We call it a running fire because it's hard to keep up to it as it goes. So as we keep going at 17, 19 hours, so 5:09. Again, it's still blowing the same way, 20 kilometers. I call for quick way because the fire is into the coulees. And at this time, I don't have the fire department over on I do. So I've got Patricia, Jambo City, and Dutchess on the one side, and then I've got Rosemary, Brooks, Tilly, Jenner, Buffalo, Cessford on the south side of the fire to the east, because that's where the head was. So that's why I had more resources there, because we wanted to get the head taken care of as quick as possible to stop it and slow it down. It turned to be ineffective because the wind changed direction at about 17:39, and it got windier. So the speed doubled in size. The temperature is quite high at 34. The humidity was only 6 degrees, and I have a machine in my truck, so that's how I was able to keep track of what the temperatures and all that good stuff was. So the wind changes direction, and now it starts pushing towards Highway 544, and now I got to try and redeploy my departments because it's going to jump the highway, which it eventually did. I kept Bow City and Gem up in that one corner to make sure that the fire wasn't going to travel back more into the provincial park, because we were trying to just protect that asset, a very important one for the province there. So, and then we just started flanking on the east and the west side with the fire departments, and we really ended up with County and Newell on the west side, and then we had special areas, Cessford, and eventually Suffield on the east side. Suffield, not a funny story, but they ended up coming when the call initially happened, and then when Cypress County turned to come to see me down the 544, they went straight through, and then we never saw them again. So an hour later, I said, "Where's Suffield right now? Can I get a location so I can mark it and all this good stuff?" And they said, "Well, Suffield's not here. They went home." I said, "What did they do that for?" So I got dispatched to resend them out. And they eventually did show up, and they've got some fantastic 1,250 gallon rapid response trucks that are definitely 100% beefier, bigger than the trucks that we have at the County of Newell, and the price probably reflects on what they have there. So, but they worked out to be very, very good, because that terrain was so rough that those vehicles that they have are made for that kind of stuff. Well, they go over the base, right, and all the terrain that's there. So, so then as we go on, about 20, 45 hours, we got the province there. The province does a drop at the head of the fire. They do a drop on the west side to protect that Tide Lake gas plant that's there. And then this is where the fire stops, which is just a little past that Tide Lake gas plant. And yeah, so again, there it is, the full size of the area. And that's what I have from that. And I do apologize, I know we're going into lunch, but if I could go through this action review real quick here. So with the after action review, there were 29 participants that showed up yesterday between teams, streaming in through teams and showing up on scene. We had Cypress, Special Areas, Alberta Parks, RCMP, Alberta Agriculture and Forestry, EID, Quickway, Alberta Transportation, 5 County and Newell Fire Departments, which was fantastic. I thought we would only see Brooks there, but we had representation from Gem, Patricia, Scandia, and Rosemary there as well. So it was great to see those county fire chiefs tuning in and having a say on the critique and what happened. And then we had a few City of Brooks staff that joined in on this as well. So it was productive. I thought it was very good. A couple things that came out of it was communication to the different departments. It wasn't great. And then I shared with them, when I go over into Cypress County and I help Cypress County with an incident, I stand with Incident Command while the firefighters go do their work. And then as Incident Command tells me something, I pass that information on to the firefighters, which makes it seamless and easy. That didn't happen here. I had the deputy chief from Special Areas come and see me for 5 minutes, and then he was gone. And then I had the deputy chief from Cypress County come, and again, he was gone. And then I was standing there all alone. So that ended up with me with a lot of radios. I had provincial fire on my VHF. I had my AFRACs going. And the talk around for Cypress County, I had the county and Newell fire departments, then I had Quickway, so it was very chaotic and busy. And my point to them was, if those chiefs would just stand with me, one, they're an excellent resource to bounce ideas off on what we're going to do on trying to mitigate and stop this thing from happening. And two, it just makes it seamless and easier to pass down those orders. And then that org chart that I showed you there gets much smaller for me and much easier. And then I can just handle my 10 fire department guys without having the deputy chief. I think there's something to be said to having that deputy chief to do that, though, because I'm looking at the overall huge picture, right, that's happening there. So that's what I got from that. The other one was the ability to see each other. I came and approached you guys for budget time about iPads in Rosemary and Dutchess to make sure that I can see every single county and Newell fire apparatus while we're on a scene. Well, when we bring multi-jurisdictionals in, one has active 911, one has I'm responding, another one has something different, right? So now we can't see every asset that's out there and know exactly where they are. So there was a kind of a call or an ask that, you know, we should have one centralized one that works for everybody, that we can see everybody when we show up on a scene. I kind of agree with that. At the end of the day, again, if the three chiefs are all standing together and we're all standing unified, yeah, we've all got 3 different computers, but we can see where everybody is, right? So to me, it's fine-tuning that command post and making sure we have people and computers there so that we can see where our assets are. And then it makes it so easy to move things around because we can say, we've got way too many in the north corner, let's take some out and move them over to where we're not so populated with fire engines and stuff like that, especially when you got 39 pieces of apparatus you're trying to work with. So that was one thing that came out of it. Communications, talking on the radio, and it's not just the fire departments, it's the county and Newell water tender, the graders that are out there and stuff like that. They're just kind of doing what they need to do, but they don't have any communication or order on what to do, right? So maybe we have different objectives for them and we can't communicate with them. So there was some conversation about, in particular in the county of Newell, if I had a Pelican case with 6 extra AFRAX radios where I could hand those out to the different agencies at the end of the day, get them back, right? And we would have better communication that way with those operators to say, we need you to move over to the northwest flank or something like that. So that was another one. A lot of talk about opening an ECC. I can say that I didn't defend myself very well with that. I didn't believe we needed to open up a full-blown ECC. But at the end of the day, I was in constant communication with Chief Swanson in Brooks, and he was worrying about allocation of fuel to get out there, food for the personnel, water that needed, drinking water for everybody. So in some ways, it was a bit of a makeshift ECC, right? And I was letting him worry about the logistics end of things and getting all that stuff out to us, and away we go. And Hannah had a good point. They do have they actually, since that Bindloss fire, they open their ECC every time a grass fire happens, and they have 3 or 4 people there that can work on getting water tenders and all that kind of stuff there. So at the end of the day, I believe a version of an ECC should be opened, but can it be kept within the fire departments? Could Kevin all of a sudden call in a couple of his captains that aren't out on the scene with us and then deal with it that way and just make things work out? Could I call some firefighters that aren't on scene from the county of Newell to go join Kevin to help make phone calls to make that happen without bugging Matt and you and a whole bunch of people. One, it takes a long time to deploy that, where the fire departments are used to going on a moment's notice and doing it. So the takeaway from that is deploying that and making sure that it's in order going forward. So the graders I talked about, RCMP involvement, definitely my takeaway was if that wind had changed direction, it was already too late to notify RCMP that we need more members to do evacuation. So at the time when the fire was only 4.5 from the trail, and yeah, it was blowing east, but what happens if it turns and goes west automatically like it does in this province on a moment's notice? And now we got to get 700-800 people out of that park right away. So my takeaway from that was we should be notifying RCMP quicker and letting them know the situation that's going on and putting officers, maybe not bringing them in, putting them on standby that we're going to need you to deploy immediately to help get people out of the park. At the end of the day, Sergeant Harms was there yesterday, and he assured me that Constable Harris was in constant contact with him, and he was working behind the scenes, actually doing things like that, letting officers know that, hey, it's coming towards the #1 highway. It could turn direction again, and so he had those kind of things in order. But it's important that I verbalize that. So one, I have it on record through Red Deer that I've done that and called for that asset to be ready to go, because it's always good to say afterwards, oh yeah, I was working behind the scenes, but how do you prove that in the court of law that you were doing it, right? So the documentation is very important for that kind of thing. Lastly, Volker, it's their highway, and we didn't notify them. And if we had notified them, would that have cleared up the 2 RCMP members that were there? Personally, I like the red and blues on scene, because people tend to respect that a little bit more. But even having said that, there was a story from special areas of people that snuck through and were still just going down the road. And my feeling to that was, I said, well, then that should have been an automatic notification to the officer on the east to stop that vehicle as soon as it gets to them and issue them a heavy, heavy fine for going through an emergency scene that was closed down. So that was my takeaway on that. So we did spend 4 days with one serious flare-up of 560 acres. Monday we had 13 acres, and there were many hot spots that were identified. Wednesday, EID, Thursday morning, EID took over the monitoring of that. And at the end of the day, and I never want to do this for myself, but there was some praise for the way that scene was ran and how efficient everything seemed to work. And of course, that was the sergeant that said that to me. And of course, I deflected that right back down to our awesome firefighters. They're the boots on the ground. They're the guys doing the work. And truly, at the end of the day, I'm just directing traffic and trying to get them to the right spots. So really, the praise needs to go to the 10 fire departments and the special areas in Cypress County that came in and worked very, very hard for 9 hours to get this out so that we didn't have a multi-day event, even though it was multi-days, but the other days were a whole lot less than that first time. So yeah, my praise really goes out to them, and I'm very thankful and very proud of the fire departments we have right now in the county, So that's what I have, if you have any questions.
Thanks, Stuart, and I'm sure people have some questions, because I had lots, I know. Hubie.
So Stu, was any livestock moved because of this? Anybody had to get out there and move cattle?
Yeah, that was another one that was quite the orchestra. We had Brad Deschamps there from Patricia and a couple others, because it's EID grazing land. And it was just amazing to see them out there with their motorcycles getting cattle pushed off the area that was burning and stuff like that. So there was some coordination and work with that. And of course, that was some of the, to the RCMP, I need to get through because I'm trying to get my cattle moved, right, was the other portion. And at the end of the day, we discussed, even though you want to get your cattle moved at that time when they blocked the road off, it just wasn't safe for people to go down the road. So nobody really should have been going down the road, even if it was a water hauler that was looking to come and give us a hand to do that. Until the danger had passed, that road should have stayed blocked 100%. So yes, in answer to your question, cattle were moved, and the farmers did a fantastic job. They were on the spot right away, and we had a lot of civilians when I first pulled up on scene that were just trying to knock that down as quick as they could. So.
Ellen?
So in hindsight, Stuart, do you think that, the ECS should have been declared a full one, if you will? I'm probably saying not the right, is it ICS?
Oh, are you talking the ECC, the Emergency Communication Center? Yeah, it used to be the EOC, and they've changed the terminology. Okay. So the Emergency Communication Center, should a full-blown one be opened up? I said on Thursday when Hannah phoned me, no, and I still say that right now, no. If that event had changed wind direction and started heading towards Brooks and Patricia and the park, that would have been the time to do it. But to get people mobilized, to have it change, at the end of the day, it didn't happen. And we can always sit here and second guess, should we have or shouldn't we have, and stuff like that. But my opinion was still that we shouldn't have. My biggest concern afterwards, and I wasn't paying enough attention the first time, was that sour gas plant. And of course, I didn't know the things that I know today, right, with that, and that it would have shut itself in. But I need to have that conversation with, I think it's CNRL's, no, that's Synovus's plant, I think. So I should have that conversation with them and talk to them about what happens when a big grass fire comes towards your plants. So, yeah.
Other questions? Back to what we used to call the EOC, from a civilian perspective and municipal perspective, think that it's great when you can have a setup with someone like Kevin Swanson in charge of that. Because by the time you pull those other people together, yeah, that'd be a lot of work, I think.
Absolutely. So, the event is going to be over by the time I get everybody, because it started at 3, and truly we were past the emergency stage around 9 o'clock, right? We spent a couple hours mop up and hitting hotspots, so it's only 3 to 9. So that's a very short period of time to call people to come in to start doing things, right?
Yeah.
But when you've got, you're right, a Kevin Swanson, Johnny on the spot that can just phone UFA and say we need fuel, and phone, Gus's, and we need, 300 pizzas going out to the, it's fantastic when that can happen. So.
Yeah, and that, I had a little bit of experience with that, because when I got home, that was council day, I was just telling John about this fire, and he said, well, we could see it, you could see the smoke. And Jordan Christensen from Special Areas, who's their CAO guy, phoned me, and he said, we might need to set up an ECC or EOC or whatever. And I'm thinking, yikes. I want to go back and get under the bed.
Exactly.
Because those sorts of things are, to me, need to be supported by the emergency people that know what they're doing. Exactly. So that was good that worked. Brian?
Cost and who pays?
That's a good question. At the end of the day, I do believe we're probably going to work through the insurance of the tractor driver. He was definitely the one that was at fault on this fire. If I were to put some numbers together real quick here, EID bases their land at $50 an acre. So we'll say 5,000 acres. We were just shy of that. That's $250,000. Our fire trucks, 39 units, 37 hours, paged hours that they were out there. So if you do that math at highway transportation costs, we're just shy of $1 million on that. Because when we bill out for vehicle accidents, it's $650 a truck. So at the end of the day, if we even cut that cost in half, it's still $500,000, right? Just in fire apparatus that was there. And actually, that's not a true petition, because there was 39 units that were on Thursday, and then it got last Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and into Monday. So I did do the math with that, and the actual true cost for apparatus for those days was close to $500,000 at the highway transportation cost. Okay, so if you cut that in half, it's $250,000. So we're at $500,000 just with the land and fire units itself, and then we have $10,000 a drop for the province. So that's about $20,000, and then we had Quickway there that did a total of 48 or 49 drops over the Thursday, and they were there all day Friday. I had to call them in first thing Friday morning for spots in the coulee, like I showed you, that one smoldering spot there. So they were there all day. They did 50 drops, and I gulped, but I heard a number of $100,000 from Quickway because of the amount of time that they spent there and the number of drops that they did. So we're very quickly approaching $750,000 just for this incident. So if that gives you some idea. If we're going on the cheaper rate. So.
And does the province sometimes participate with any of that? I think so, right, Matt?
Yeah, it was actually really interesting when Stuart and I met with Stephen Best from the province yesterday, and he went through way too many scenarios for me to have kept track of, but you know, with the fire going into the park, the percent of the acres burnt out of the total, they'll ignore that percent of the invoice. If Stuart ever wants eyes in the sky, they'll send a helicopter and get him up there, no charge. When it comes to the firefighting side of things, I was actually quite surprised by how generous the province seems to be with their billing practices. And I think we were both surprised by the charge for the water drop. But the other thing that stood out to me is in any event, the province is always there. They will backstop us, call them soon. They can get things done. They've got the resources if they're available, and we kind of fit in the priority of things. I mean, how long was it for that bird out from Pincher to get here? It's a 13-minute flight?
Yeah, 13-minute flight, that's it.
Wow.
Their turnaround, they went back and refilled in Pincher Creek and came back, and they were back in under an hour. Like they were very quick. They were roughly about an hour from phone call to being on scene. And then their turnaround for that second drop, I would say it was less than 45 minutes. It was fast. They were back pretty quick with their second drop. So.
Well, it'd be useless if they weren't fast. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's good. That's great. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Clarence.
Yeah, it's where the retardant is, it's where other things are. We did talk about things like scooping out of Lake Newell, if they could, and they do have planes that can do that. I think if I recall right, Matt, this plane had to go back to Pincher because of the side fill that it was, rather than a scoop and a few other things. So in most cases, in a lot of cases they can. And I don't know if you want to talk to him, Matt, but there was conversation about the Brooks Airport and having retardant there ready to go. And I think at the end of the day, with our lessons learned with Quickway, that it would be maybe a joint venture where Quickway could possibly use it as well. And then we could get things going a little bit quicker to get retardant. If we had retardant into those coulees, it probably would have been more effective than just water, right? Because it smothers. Retardant sticks and it stays there for a period of time, where water evaporates real quick, right? So, yeah.
There's nothing else. We'll break for lunch. Join us for lunch if you are able.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think I'm going to head back to the fire hall there and see if they need an assist.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so
right.
as much as I don't want to be looking for somebody, but it might be a little relaxing for the afternoon just driving around. So,
Stuart, so when you say a search and rescue, like within the city and all over?
Yeah, well, and I think that's where their decision making has to come right now. I would assume that, to me, the biggest area to check first is behind Walmart. That's a big field that's in there. And then from there, if I were organizing it, it'd probably be down the canals and having a look down in that area. And then from there, it's just a needle in a haystack. There's so much barren land all over the place here, right? So we just don't know
Right.
exactly. But those would be probably my first two thoughts.
That's probably what's
or
gone on in the
looks.
past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, well, I hope that that has a happy ending. All right, guys, how about we break for, oh, and thank you. I just realized that you guys were first right after, and it wouldn't have been fast, or it wouldn't have been long, and I looked at that and I thought, oh, yeah, no, that'll take forever, but it isn't. So I'm sorry, but you've had an enjoyable morning. Yes, it is. It's the more that people know about it too, because there's a lot of misinformation, wild information. Oh yeah, you missed it. The funniest thing of all, though, is after Jordan Christensen, my call came from Lane Johnson, who is stuck to being at home. So I thought, oh no, what's happening now? But Lane had taken the call, and yeah, it was funny. It was all good. All good communication. So how long for lunch do you guys want? Half an hour? Okay. 10 after.